And this is the trouble with even a lot of the songs that we listen to that trigger us emotionally. They trigger us emotionally because they connect us to our affect emotion, and we start getting into our affect emotion, which, by the way, is the addiction itself. And we don't finish up doing with the causal emotion. For example, the emotion, I feel unloved. Can you see that that is an affect emotion? Why would anybody feel unloved? It's because somebody didn't love them. Does that make sense? Like, how did you feel unloved as a child? Only by your parents not loving you. Right? So when you say you feel unloved, while you may be stating a truth of what you feel inside of you, it's actually an affect-based emotion, and you can cry about that emotion for the rest of your life and not release it. Because it's not the truth. The truth is that God loves you right now, whether you feel unloved or not. Right? That's the truth. And underneath the truth of you feeling, the truth underneath you feeling unloved is that you were not loved by mum or dad or both. And that's the truth we don't want to feel most of the time. Does that make sense? I don't want to feel that mummy didn't love me, so what I do is I blame myself for I just feel unloved instead. That is not the whole of the causal emotion. And you can stay in that cycle for the rest of your existence, feeling unloved, and it's also not the truth. And whenever you get out of harmony with truth or out of harmony with love with any of your emotional processing work, you are not dealing with a causal emotion. Because it's only truth and love that opens causal emotions. Now, you'll notice this a lot in our work that we're doing with people as groups. When I state the truth to somebody, they immediately go into an emotion. Have you noticed that? So in the last group we had down at Coffs Harbour, a lady asked me a series of questions, and I just said, just stop for a moment. Just listen to what I'm saying to you. Your mother does not love you. And she started saying things about, but she thinks she does and all those kind of... I said, no, stop. And I just said the truth again. Your mother does not love you. Right now, she does not love you. And when the lady allowed herself to feel that, she just started crying. Because that truth connected with the feeling. The truth is her mother doesn't love her, even right now. The truth is many of your parents don't love you right now. But we want to believe it's love, and so we skip over a heap of emotions. And we even are willing to feel totally unloved, but still not realise what its source is. Can you see? We're ready to feel unloved, and we're ready to cry for days on end about how unloved we feel, and still, in many cases, totally unwilling to see that that's because our parents, even right now at this moment, don't love us. And we're unwilling to actually cry about that and accept that truth. You see? And it's when we accept the truth that the real emotions get accessed, and when the real emotions get accessed, your law of attraction changes immediately. Not months and months and months and months and months of crying about a certain issue. Does that make sense to everyone? So what happens is that many of these I feel unloved turn into addictions. Please love me. Right? So this feeling, which is actually an effect feeling, it's a feeling that my parents created by not loving me. That's how they created it. Otherwise it wouldn't be within me. So they created a feeling inside of me that they didn't love me. I, as a result of their projection, felt unloved. In fact, many of you not only just felt unloved, but you actually felt that your parents hated your guts in moments of your life. You know, you remember when mum or dad got out the strap and lost control with you? You remember those times? When they not only belt you once, but just belt you until they've realised what they were doing? Did you feel loved then? Of course not. Were you being loved then? No, but often they're saying, I'm doing this because I love you. All these false messages, see? And so in that moment, did you feel unloved? Certainly. Why did you feel unloved? Because You were not being loved. In fact, in that moment, you were being hated. In that moment, you were hated by them. They had resentment and rage and anger and fury towards you. They hated your very being in that moment. Because if they didn't, they couldn't do what they just did. Does that make sense? Now, sure, it might have done it because they hate themselves and a lot of other things too, but I'm just talking about your personal emotions.
AJ, could they have started with, what you're saying they're projecting on their child?
Yep.
Could that be because that's what they're feeling about themselves?
Oh, it's always about what they're feeling about themselves, but does me feeling bad about myself justify my murdering you? No. So why do we even state that? So we're saying see, this is what many of us are doing in our emotional processing work with our parents. What we're doing is we're saying, they only felt that way because. And this gets you way out of your emotions. It's a great way to avoid a whole group of emotions. There is no justification for unloving behaviour. From God's perspective, there is none. No justification for unloving behaviour. Ever.
Yeah, I didn't feel I was justifying it.
You were.
Oh, was I?
Yeah.
Okay.
By the question.
Yeah.
By actually saying, but wasn't there... As soon as you do that, you're going into this space of trying to justify why they were willing to treat you unlovingly. Does that make sense? You want to understand why they're treating you unlovingly. Why? Can't we just say they treated us unlovingly and leave it there? Why can't we just leave it there? Because we want to justify their unloving treatment, because we don't want to face the emotion. They hated my guts in that moment. How did that feel? Does that make sense? That's why we're doing it.
Yeah, I'm so pleased to ask the question because it was like I was getting it, not getting it.
Yep, the instant you allow yourself to feel that your parent hated you in that moment, and in that moment they were expressing all their rage, frustration and fury against you, a poor, defenceless person. They weren't even brave enough to go and do it to an adult. That's how lack of courage they had about that emotion. They weren't even brave enough to go and punch their next door neighbour in the face. Instead, what they did, right, was get a child who they say they control and is their child, and they have the right to do whatever they want to that child. They get that child, and by the way, I'm including myself in this because I've done this, right? And I get that child in that space and bang, 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 expressing my frustration, anger, rage, whatever other things that I'm expressing into that child. And that child, what is that child feeling in that moment? That child is feeling hated. That child is feeling terrible right at that moment. Many of you have had hundreds of these, some of you thousands of these experiences. Do you understand? Can you see why you feel unloved? Can you see I feel unloved is the result of this terrible feeling you don't want to feel, and that is that my parents actually hated me. My parents resented me. And by the way, many of your parents did hate you and did resent you. Like many of you women have grown up with a mother who resented you because you became a competition for daddy's love, for their husband's love. Same goes with many of you men, right? Now, this emotion, I feel unloved, comes from the underlying emotion that you were actually unloved and you don't want to accept it, right? You don't want to personally fully accept that you were unloved. And many of us need to feel that emotion, that we were unloved. The majority of our lives, we have been unloved. And we need to feel that these people did not love us rather than just feel unloved. Because feeling unloved is the effect of their actions. Do you follow me? Because some are still a bit confused about that. But when I have this emotion and I don't want to feel this emotion, I will now have this emotion, which is the addiction, the flip side addiction, which is, please love me, please love me, please love me. And any person that comes along and who does the slightest thing out of harmony with love with me, what I believe love to be, I get angry. I get upset. I diss them. I cut them out of my life, cut them out of my will, do all sorts of things in order to prevent that person from ever having my love. Does that make sense? When you are in a space of love yourself, you will not ever desire to prevent another person from being loved by you. right? That's how you feel. But anyway, we have these addictions. Now, if I cannot answer the questions at the